Hey brother! Great news, Jay. The first trailer for Spider-Man 2 Far From Home dropped, and obviously it's the only thing I can think about. Like, did you notice the initials on the suitcase? BFP? Benjamin Franklin Parker? No, I don't know if that's actually his middle name, and yes, I probably could have looked it up. The bigger question though is, why is he using such an old suitcase? There have been so many advancements in that field. Is he carrying the suitcase with his hands? Who is this kid? But also, probably more important than new suitcase technology, will we learn more about Uncle Ben in this movie? I mean, as a recent uncle myself, I know quite a few things about being an Uncle Ben. Well, you know, Peter, with a darn tootin' amount of potential and ability comes a great deal of authority and influence. Yes, that is what I, Benjamin Franklin Parker, always say. Rolls off the tongue. But that's enough about who we didn't see in this trailer. Let's talk about who we did. Needless to say, what intrigued me the most was our all-new villain, Mysterio. Who, when you first see him, you're like, whoa, he looks like a mixture between Thor and Iron Man. And then the trailer is promptly like,
he's like Iron Man and Thor rolled into one.
I mean, he looks awesome, and he kind of comes across more like a hero, like landing in on scene all cool like, and then rattling off a cool guy catchphrase.
You don't want any part of this.
So my question is, he kind of looks the part of the hero, talks the part of the hero, but he's classically a villain. So today we are going to figure out what's up with Mysterio. Guys, before we get started, you may know that we recently started a coffee company, but did you know that we also have a cold brew version of our coffee? It's totally delicious. The cold brew is great because it is delicious and you can have it on the go whenever you need. One bottle is the equivalent of 2 cups of coffee, and now with our subscription model, you can get your first order 50% off. If you are anything like me, you might be kind of forgetful, so anything that I have consistently, I have on a subscription basis and it just comes to my door. The first order, 50% off, takes $15 off your order. Every order after that is 25% off. It's a great deal and you're gonna love it. Check it out now at CarlinBrothersCoffee.com. I'll put a link in the description down below. But back to Spider-Man Far From Home. I have to say that despite Spider-Man's role in the whole fight against Thanos and saving the entire galaxy, that his own movie is still a high school movie where they're going on a field trip. Another field trip, I might add. What is up with this school system always taking field trips? Like DC in the first one, wherever they're going in the bus in this one. And now what? Europe? Queens public school system is clearly doing something right. I'll tell you what though, for everything that they packed into this trailer, it's what they left out that has me asking questions. Like, sorry, where is Iron Man? Did Tony die? Does Tony die in Infinity War? I'm pretty sure he was a big deal in the first Spider-Man, remember? He was here, and here, and here, and not really here, but he was over there. I mean, the rest of his supporting cast is there. We see Pepper's name on the giant check, and Happy is hitting on Aunt May.
What just happened?
Plus, Peter is kind of like Tony's ward, and now what? Nick Fury is showing up the same way he did for Tony? But Tony's absence is nothing compared to what shows up next, and if you're anything like us, you probably paused the screen immediately as soon as Peter's passport came on screen. And again, if you're anything like us, I'm sure you were outraged that they've digitally scrubbed out the year on his passport, so we have no idea what year this movie's taking place in. But on the bright-ish side, Peter now has a passport that is permanently useful and permanently kind of expired. Without the years, it is always before and after the dates on his passport. I think it's hilarious that he even needs one at all. Do you think he did when he went to Germany or, Titan? He definitely did not have time to get one before Titan. The point is though, without the dates on the passport, we still don't have a clear idea of when this movie is going to take place in the Marvel timeline. My bet though is that it is post-Infinity War, post-Endgame, and post-effects of the snap being reversed, which first helps explain why they would all still be in high school, even if a lot of time has passed since the events of the snap, and of course how Peter is alive again, and how it's even possible for Nick Fury to be there recruiting new people to do missions for him. Really, the biggest implication here is that whatever happens at the end of Endgame, not that much time can possibly have passed. Either way, it sounds like Fury's back in the game and S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably back as well, but enough about them and moving on to the new villain we get to see in this trailer, Mysterio. Or maybe not villain, according to this interview.
There are these threats to the world, elemental creatures. He's the only one who really sort of understands them in a way, and
and then, you know, he teams up with Spider-Man.
Oh, really? Only Mysterio knows about the elementals? Sure. That doesn't seem suspicious at all. The elementals, in case you are wondering, are Sandman, Hydro Man, and Molten Man. And although they don't exactly look like their comic book counterparts, you can bet that this is exactly who they are. The trailer actually references all three of them. This boat reads ASM 212, which stands for The Amazing Spider-Man 212, which introduces Hydro Man. The license plate in front of this sandy looking monster reads 463, which stands for Amazing Spider-Man number 4, 1963, which introduces Sandman. And finally, we have yet another license plate reading at 2865, which stands for Amazing Spider-Man number 28, published in 1965, where Molten Man is introduced.
Coincidence? I think not!
Right you are, Bernie! Nor do I think it's coincidence that the only person who knows anything about these elementals is Mysterio. Because almost undoubtedly, he is behind them, and the only reason he's working with Spider-Man to begin with is to try to gain fame, which is actually a fairly interesting take on the relationship between Spider-Man and Mysterio as we've seen it throughout history. Typically, Mysterio's true identity is a man by the name of Quentin Beck, who is a special effects artist for Hollywood and would love to be famous but can't quite make it as an actor. So he takes the obvious next step and tries to become a supervillain by gaining fame by defeating a budding superhero, Spider-Man. And as such, he doesn't actually have any superpowers at all. He's just a master of illusions and misdirection and hypnotism, and has a myriad of tools and gadgets to help him take on Spider-Man. What's interesting about this, though, is that it's sort of similar to Peter's former mentor, Tony Stark, who also doesn't actually possess any superpowers, but is able to invent a super suit that is then very powerful. The difference is, though, Quentin Beck is not actually creating powerful weapons in the same way. It all just looks fancy. That being said, though, he is typically associated with some type of gas-related technology, which is why his character typically has this fishbowl-shaped helmet, which we do actually kind of see in the trailer, where it looks like he's using smoke or gas to seemingly appear out of nowhere. But on top of that, he's kind of convincing. We can see him fly and shoot some kind of projectile and use a sort of Doctor Strange-esque shielding technique. The thing is, though, we haven't seen him fighting Spider-Man at all. He just sort of comes across as this weird medley between Thor, Iron Man, and Doctor Strange, kind of. And he appears to be fighting like an imminent threat to the surrounding area. Like, are we sure this guy's the villain? And the answer is yes, I totally think so. I'm pretty sure he's pulling a Syndrome in this movie.
And just when all hope is lost, Syndrome will save the day!
You gotta admit, the two have pretty similar backgrounds. They both are able to kind of invent their powers, and they're both obsessed with being famous or super. And if he is indeed motivated against the supers like Buddy, then he may even attempt to paint Spider-Man as a villain to then later defeat him. Which kind of brings us full circle back to the suitcase with Uncle Ben's initials that we see at the beginning of the trailer, because I don't think it's just an Easter egg. My bet is we do find something to do with how Uncle Ben died, and Peter will undoubtedly blame himself for it. In fact, I think that's exactly what Mysterio is going to take advantage of by using some type of hallucinative gas to cause Peter to relive the experience and kind of go down the rabbit hole of guilt. Peter blaming himself could also pair nicely with another small clip we see in the trailer where he decides not to bring his Spider-Man suit with him on the trip and instead just spend more time with his friends and MJ. This is as classic as the Spider-Man character can possibly be. He is always trying to weigh the balance of being Spider-Man and still having a personal life. We first see it in Spider-Man 2 and again in Spider-Man 2, and you guessed it, I think we're gonna see it again in Spider-Man 2. Imagine this. Peter, off of his fresh trip to space and death, returns back to Queens and maybe isn't quite as motivated to be Spider-Man as he once was.
I just lost to a Dominican lady and bought me a churro.
But then Nick Fury shows up in Europe, forces him into it, where he's then quickly defeated by a water monster who is then defeated by a seemingly superior hero in Mysterio. Though to be fair, chances are Mysterio actually invented him and he was never really a real threat to begin with. Wanting mentorship, I think Peter will open up to Mysterio about Uncle Ben. Mysterio Mysterio, then recognizing the potential threat to his own fame, will try to use this information to get Peter to walk away from his responsibilities as Spider-Man. Kind of in a what difference will it even make teenage mentality that Peter will adopt. Like, there are clearly more capable superheroes out there. That is until a trip down Uncle Ben memory lane will remind him that with a darn tootin' amount of ability comes a something, you know what I'm trying to say. Great power, great responsibility. That's the message. Meaning that I think Mysterio's real role in this movie isn't going to be this great, dangerous villain, but rather to really get Peter to fully embrace his responsibility as Spider-Man. Because especially with that in mind, it's very possible that Mysterio isn't a real villain to begin with. He's really just a puppet for someone else. Not to mention, in the last movie, we were introduced to a myriad of other Spider-Man villains, including Vulture, Scorpion, Shocker, Prowler, and the Tinkerer. And we have rather big-named actors, Remy Hee and J.B. Smoove, who are both cast in this movie without actual character names. Who are they going to play? I have a feeling the reason they aren't telling us is because they're kind of important. Possibly Negative Man, possibly Uncle Ben, maybe Norman Osborn? Where even is the Green Goblin in this thing? The point is, and the real reason it's important to draw notice to how many villains have been introduced into just this particular Spider-Man storyline, is because of the ever-famous Sinister Six. The Sinister Six is a group of Spider-Man villains we have been wanting to see forever. And while I don't think we're going to see them in full force in this movie, it's because they are going to be behind the scenes, kind of pulling all the strings happening in this movie to be a threat in the future. Spider-Man's going to seem to celebrate a big victory in this movie, but in reality, it's all part of a bigger plan. That, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait to see in part 3. Spider-Man 3, Home Alone, where Peter Parker has to defend his house from the Sinister Six using nothing more than marbles. But guys, for my question of the day, what do you think of Mysterio so far? Do you like the casting? Do you think he's gonna be a villain? Leave all your thoughts in the towel section down below. And again, guys, be sure to go check out CarlinBrothersCoffee.com, where we've just set up subscription models where you can get 50% off your first order, whether it be beans or cold brew. I'll put a link in the description down below. Check it out. But guys, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like some more Spider-Man action from us, you can click right up here to check out what we thought of the Spider-Verse movie, or right here to figure out why American flags are such a big deal in Spider-Man movies. But Jay, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you on Tuesday.